So I've been wanting to cover this for the past couple of days because I found it deeply interesting. Parts of it are deeply saddening, and the other part of it is just interesting watching how the internet has reacted to it. If you don't know what I'm talking about the Times article that came out that was titled "Meet the Queen of the Trad Wives, Hannah Neilan." She has 8 children, they live out in Utah, and you guessed it, they are Mormon.
And hung that so it could get a bit thicker. Then I washed my butter. I also like to run it under some cold water to get it really nice and washed. And then I add some salt.
She is kind of the pinnacle of the trad wives content over on TikTok. Trad wife, traditional wife, or traditional housewife typically denotes a woman who believes in and practices traditional sex roles and marriages. Many trad wives believe that they do not sacrifice women's rights by choosing to take a homemaking role within their marriage. Some may choose to leave careers to focus instead on meeting their family's needs in the home. Now, oppositional of the boss babe, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna earn some money, I'm not gonna go with the traditional homemaking sense that we have, and I'm just gonna get this straight. I don't care what anyone chooses to do with their family. If they want to go out and work, if they don't want to go out and work, personally I've done both, so I'm not, this isn't a bashing of trad wives. I do know that a lot of people like watching these, you know, trad wives videos where they're making sunscreen from scratch, they're making their own butter, they're making, I mean, everything is just made from scratch.
My toddlers asked me for candy this morning, specifically the peach and apple ring gummies. I decided to just make them some, blanching some peaches and then shocking them in an ice bath after to get the skin off. Got started on my citric acid and sugar mixture. Yes, and these were gone before I could even plate them up.
Everything's perfect, hair done, kitchen, like everything is perfect. Where we come on now is that on the discussion of trad wives, we then have a whole subsection where we have Mormon trad wives. And I feel that when we're talking about this Times article, some people are really missing the key fact in this, and that is the Mormon culture with the trad wives. There are some people who just do the trad wives. There are other people on TikTok who are Mormon trad wives, and I feel like there is a very big difference, obviously culturally and religiously. There's a big difference in the reasonings as to why they do what they do, and this isn't a bash at Mormonism. Over the course of my channel, I've looked at quite a few family vloggers and I've looked at quite a few mummy vloggers who are Mormon. There are a lot of similarities within how the family operates.
I went to interview Hannah Neilan, otherwise known as Ballerina Farm. There was Hannah, her husband Daniel, who's also the business partner, and their 8 children, along with cows, pigs, chickens, the whole shebang. I thought I was going to be interviewing Hannah. It turned out to be a little harder than that. Daniel is very involved in the brand. In fact, he kind of leads it. She is the most gorgeous, generous mother. You know, these children are literally swinging off her hair. Daniel was a little bit more leading, actually. It was sometimes hard to ask her questions, and it was sometimes hard to get a direct answer from her without her being interrupted or her deferring to her husband.
So if you're completely confused, there was this Times article with this woman called Hannah Neilan, and she has a TikTok account called Ballerina Farm. She also has her own TikTok account called Hannah Neilan. I think she had that TikTok account before the Ballerina Farm one, I think. She is the pinnacle Mormon trad wife. She makes everything from scratch. She's always got children dangling off of her. Daniel really doesn't seem to be about as much, although he pops in and out. Paints this very serene image of this woman who just loves taking care of the family, who makes everything from scratch, who, you know, who gives her life to her children and her family. Scratching on the surface, this seems like very aspirational content, and when this Times article came out, it then made it quite clear to a lot of different people that maybe, just maybe, her situation isn't exactly as it seems. I will just say is that there are a lot of people, number one, saying that she is being controlled, has got her freedom taken away, she is deeply saddened. It's about patriarchy, and it's about feminism, and it's about men trying to take away women's, you know, voices. Argument number two, author of this piece was just dramatizing everything, and actually maybe that was her career, maybe she didn't actually want to do ballet. Maybe she didn't want a different life. You know, it's very possible that she's very, very happy. You guys are making a mountain out of a molehill.
That Hannah Neilan is a victim or oppressed based on this article, it's because it was manipulative journalism.
And the one thing I will say, which is what I just said a minute ago, their faith comes into this in a very, very, very big way. People who are ex-Mormon, who have, in their own words, left their cult, were basically indoctrinated. These are their words, not mine. They left their husbands, they managed to free themselves, and they are also chiming in on this conversation.
This is a woman who is not an autonomous individual, and I've seen women on here saying things like, well, I don't want to speak about her life because she is a grown woman. She is an autonomous person. She has free will. She's making choices. No, she isn't. She isn't. She is being indoctrinated and has been indoctrinated since the day she was born into the Mormon cult. Okay? She's not making choices that are informed. She's being told that she has to obey her husband.
Talking about Neilan, even they said a devout Mormon who was raised in a Mormon family. She bakes perfectly scored sourdough loaves, milks cows straight into her coffee cup, and gives birth by candlelight with no pain relief. Straight off the bat, Hannah Neilan was a Juilliard ballet dancer. She actually had 1 year left of her undergraduate. She had 1 year left, and that was going to be it. Her career was going to be ballet. Hence the reason why it is a little bit strange how it's called, you know, Ballerina Farm. I mean, it's not strange, but it is strange once we get into this in just a moment. Grew up in a very Mormon family, okay? Both her parents were very Mormon. She went away and she was in Juilliard, and that is what she wanted to do. When she was asked, you know, is this something that you've always wanted to do? She says, no. I mean, I was like, my goal was New York City. I left home at 17 and I was so excited to get there. I just loved that energy and I was going to be a ballerina. I was a good ballerina. She pauses again, but I know that when I started to have kids, my life would look different.
Well, I think one of the best things about a social media business in our case is that we get to work together. Growing up.
And when they were both asked about, you know, the reasoning why they're having so many kids, she says it's God's plan. Whenever she has a baby, give it another year. She then asks God, and God says, yes, have another baby. One baby after another after another.
Okay, this is by far the #1 question that we've gotten the most of.
How many kids we're going to have? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. We don't really have a number. We're just kind of going for it.
When asked, you know, are you going to fill your 15-seater van? Daniel, the husband, says, you know, yes. And she says, well, I'm a little bit tired. Now, in a very coincidental chain of events, Hannah was actually on her way back to New York from Salt Lake City. She was going to go back to Juilliard, and she was going to go and finish. And what ended up happening was that Daniel, her now husband, what happened was Daniel's dad is actually the owner of JetBlue Airlines. And Daniel knew that she was going to be getting on that flight, so he managed to wiggle it and get a seat right next to her. And in his words, she didn't realize his dad owned the airline, so Daniel was like, I'm on that same flight. She says, I remember checking in and them saying, you're 5A and you're 5B. I just thought, no way, that's crazy. Daniel smiles, I made a call. He had pulled strings at JetBlue, and so began their first date. Back then, I thought we should date for a year before marriage, she continues, so I could finish school and whatever. And Daniel was like, it's not going to work. We've got to get married now. After a month, they were engaged. 2 months after that, they were married, moving into an apartment Daniel rented on the Upper West Side. And 3 months after that, she was pregnant, the first Juilliard undergraduate to be expecting in modern history. When they were then probed on, you know, have you had to give up that much? She says that, you know, we've all had to make sacrifices. Our first few years of marriage were really hard. We sacrificed a lot, but we did have this vision, this dream, and Daniel interrupts. We still do. What kind of sacrifices, I ask her. Well, I gave up dance, which was hard. You give up a piece of yourself, and Daniel gave up his career ambitions. Now, there's a very common theme in this. The way that the journalist writes is that Daniel keeps on cutting her off. One of the sad things, actually, was when they then moved out to this ranch, to this farm that they now call Ballerina Farm, she really wanted for this particular shed/barn to be made into a ballet studio, just do what she loves doing. And he dismissed it, and he decided to turn it into a kid's home schooling room.
So I'm here in the schoolroom. If you followed for any amount of time, you know that this building actually used to be where we shipped and fulfilled all our orders here on the farm.
Now keep this in mind. They have a lot of money, but where his dad comes from, the amount of money they're able to make off the farm, they actually sell their meat. I believe that they sell their cow meat and they do it online and all this kind of stuff. So they have quite a good business as well as their social media. So they rake in a hell of a lot of money. They are not poor. And he still would not either build her a ballet studio or have the ballet studio that she wanted.
The acceptance rate to get into Juilliard is between 5 and 8%. I say this because I saw a comment of a woman who said they too had hobbies they gave up after they became a mother. You know, you just give up things when you become a mother. No one is arguing that. But please don't compare your hobbies to being a Juilliard level ballet dancer. Unless you were training to be a professional athlete or training to be an Olympian, you and her are not the same.
Journalist did pick up on this. She says, I look out at the vastness and I don't totally agree. Daniel wanted to live in the great western wild, so they did. He wanted to farm, so they do. He likes date nights once a week, so they go. They have a babysitter on those evenings. He didn't want nannies in the house, so there weren't any. The only space earmarked to be Neilan's own, a small barn she wanted to convert into a ballet studio, ended up becoming the kids' schoolroom. Another interesting thing to note as well, she gave birth to most of her children at home and she did it without pain relief. And when she was asked more about this, Daniel got up and he left the room and she said in a hushed tone, no, I had an epidural for the one that she's just had and it was amazing, or something a bit like that. Straight after that baby as well, she went and she competed in Miss America or Miss World. The baby was born, milk was coming out everywhere, she was bleeding and she was like, I don't know if I can do this. But she still went, and I believe they said it was like 11 days later. He bamboozled by this. I'm not sure why anyone would want to do this. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But that's a very interesting thing to think about as well. Like, whose decision was that? Is that more so that he could show off that his wife can do it all, that she can be a homemaker, she can also have all these kids, and then she can also compete in these amazing Miss World pageants? Very obvious when you read the article and even when you watch them in the clips that he has a more like dominant stance over the situation. It says they have a cleaner but no childcare. Neilan does all the food shopping, kids in tow, and cooks from scratch. They don't do ready meals. Despite the more traditional aspects of their relationship, Daniel is a hands-on father, taking the kids out to the farm and doing all the laundry. The children appear to look after each other quite well too. There are so many that they seem to have become an almost self-sustaining entity. Still, Daniel says, Neilan sometimes gets so ill from exhaustion that she can't get out of bed for a week. Husband isn't saying this like, oh, this one time she was so overworked that she was ill. No, he's saying sometimes she gets so ill from exhaustion that she goes to bed. This is, when you say sometimes, that means that there's going to be more than one chance of this happening. I can see the way that the journalist is trying to word this, and I can see that, yes, this is a lady who had a path set in front of her and she was almost snatched up immediately by this man, and you know, they had to have babies and they had to this and that. I can understand completely when people say that this looks like an extremely toxic situation. This looks like, you know, he has literally just picked her up and gone, no, you're going to be the baby making machine, you're going to be my wife, build a family. And that's very much in line with the Mormon culture and the Mormon belief system.
I was a Mormon trad wife. So reading that article was really heartbreaking. We have to think about agency here, but let's put that into the context of what kind of agency a Mormon woman has in reality, right? And what kind of agency a woman who is raised under patriarchy has. So they start dating and he wants to get married right away, and she's like, no, I need to go to school, and he's somehow has convinced her not, and so they get married, and then 3 months later she is pregnant, and so her dreams right there are sealed. Like, her fate is sealed. She doesn't really have access to family planning, that their family plan is to pray about it. And that's clearly some very deeply held religious beliefs, which is also religious indoctrination. And why do I say that? Well, because I was religiously indoctrinated.
People are getting completely confused as to why she can't leave. You know, how come she's not leaving? Why can't she just get up and go? It is extremely difficult. It would be extremely difficult for her to get out of that situation, not just financially, but because of their faith. The whole reasoning why it happened as quickly as it possibly did is because of these very, very, very strict Mormon beliefs that, you know, she had and he had, of what some ex-Mormons are saying. And they've come onto TikTok and they said, you know, she has been indoctrinated from an early age, and this is very much about religion. This is about their religious belief systems, and until that changes, she's not going to be able to get out of that situation, have more and more and more children, until she can't have any more children anymore. And she's already, you know, she's already saying that she gets so ill, she's in bed. It's exhausting.
We are taught at a very, very young age what our roles are and how we are going to get into heaven. We're taught how to remain with our eternal family, because that is the end goal, right? Our time on earth, from a Mormon's perspective, is servitude. It is building your stairway to heaven, literally. And as a woman, your job is to build the army of God. That's it. You have a uterus and you are there to populate the earth with as many Mormons as you can to help build his army.
We all know about the barn, about the fact that she wanted to build a ballet studio. He wouldn't allow that to happen. Asked for tickets for them to go to Greece, and then he filmed her opening up on her birthday package, and she looked all excited saying, "Is this tickets for Greece?" Turns out it wasn't. Turns out it was a egg collector, you know, for the chickens, and then you put the eggs, which, to be fair, I don't think I've actually come across one of them before. They do look quite cool. But, I mean, she's just birthed 8 children. She's gone out to do pageants, Miss World, whatever, and you give her the egg collector when she wanted tickets to Greece.
It's my birthday present from Daniel. Hoping their tickets to Greece.
Where's it from?
I don't know, the boys took it off.
I took it off.
It's from Ukraine.
So, plane tickets? Ooh, a hat I can wear in Greece.
It's not a hat.
It's not.
Oh, my A-game friend!
Eggs in it.
Great, now you can gather eggs.
So cute. It's really cute. It's a cute one.
That's the best. You're welcome.
Thanks, honey.
Not for a long time.
And the way that he says, "You're welcome," because she didn't say thank you straight away. He's a bad egg. I'm telling you what, talk about collecting eggs. I get bad egg energy from him all day long. A lot of people who are ex-Mormon, well, they say, and I do also have to agree, that she may not even realize that this is what is happening to her if she also grew up within, you know, families that did follow the similar sets of rules, that this was the case.
I'm a former Mormon trad wife. I have 6 kids. I'm 38 years old. I don't have an education. I got married young. I had kids young, and I absolutely gave up on my hopes and dreams to choose the life that I have now. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I felt like I had choices in my life, I would have hands down told you that I was incredibly happy with the choices that I made, and that I made those choices knowing full well what I was choosing. Now that I've been out of the church for 3 years, I will tell you that I was never actually given a choice, because I see that the choices that I were given were not given in an honest light. It's not fair to show someone 10 candy bars and say, hey, you can choose this candy bar, which is the right candy bar that you should choose, or you can choose these 9, which are poisonous and deadly, and if they don't kill you, they're going to kill all of your friends and family members. What would you like to choose? That's how choices are given in Mormonism. So when you're in it, you feel like you're making a choice that makes you happy. And to be fair, like, I was happy in the sphere of what I knew happiness was, which in Mormonism, sacrifice and suffering is required for happiness. You're taught that everyone else's happiness outside of the Mormon church isn't real happiness. The joy you feel being Mormon, even though it comes with pain and suffering and sacrificing the choices that you actually would have made had you been presented the entire truth, is better and more and real. So are Mormon women truly choosing their lives and being happy with their choices? I think it depends what you consider choice and what you consider happiness. For me, leaving Mormonism was the first true choice that I ever made.
I feel like there's a very, very, very big difference between, you know, trad wife content, Mormon trad wife content. And just like the clip that I literally just shared, where this woman is saying that leaving Mormonism was the one true choice that she had. You then have the discourse over some people are saying, well, you know, actually giving up what I didn't plan to be a mum, I didn't plan to be a wife, and, you know, I gave up things and it just happened, and, you know, me and my husband didn't realize that we were ready, and then we were ready. In my own opinion, is very different. Doing it for religious purposes, I feel like there's a very big difference. Does Hannah necessarily have that choice? Is she actually making it because it will bring happiness, or is she doing it as a sacrifice? I feel that there is a lot of conversation on either side. You just have to go looking for it. It's the discourse that has been going on about this in the past few days, and it's very, very, very interesting. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and I will catch up with you guys in the next video.